This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer.
FBI going back into the house on King Road this last week, uncovering all of the windows on the boards, and it seems doing some documenting of the interior of the home for the jury once this trial does get underway. Can you give us any insight as to what exactly they were looking for in there, or what exactly they're gathering up to present at some point in time?
What they're gathering, they are putting together a very detailed model of that house. So they went back through and they're going to measure every wall, every door jamb, every bit of flooring, and they're going to try to replicate it perfectly. I've even understood that they're looking at sound and how sound, I don't know, somehow reverberated in that house. But I'm sticking by my belief that, Tony, there's no way to replicate that murder scene.
Yeah.
There's no way to replicate what it sounded like to go up and down stairs, what that, from the vantage point of Dylan Mortensen, what she would have heard in that house, except for a juror to be in that door frame and be able to see how close he really looked to her.
Yeah.
Video games are great, right? You can do so much on them. They look almost real, but the word almost always comes in.
Yeah.
It's never real.
Well, I think a good analogy on this one is, if anyone has looked at real estate in the last handful of years, the virtual tours that you can take of a home. And it looks wonderful. It's very cool. You can get a very good perspective on a home, far more than just the pictures used to be. But still, when you actually visit the property, it's not the same as just looking at the 3D walkthrough that has been created. You still don't quite get, remotely the same sort of feeling that you would there. In a case like this, you really kind of need to understand that. Isn't it not important to keep that structure standing until this trial gets underway, if in fact they do want to take a visit there with the jury to show them firsthand what exactly they believe happened, and the jury can get a real one-on-one, real world spatial understanding of it?
I think it will be the number one mistake that the prosecution will make, or has made, by not insisting that structure remain. I agree with you. I love the analogy on the real estate. I always think of these video games as a good analogy, because I think it is even more interactive, supposedly, the video that they're going to put together. But also it's about sound. In other words, as an example, the Ring video that was next to the house, that footage came from, in terms of being able to hear even a slight scream or the dog bark that we've all heard about. The jurors, I would think, I would want to hear, I would want somebody to go out there and scream or whatever and see if I could hear it from there.
Sure.
I would want to do some experimentation like that to see how thin those walls were, if you will. So I guess the idea for me is visual, but sound also, I think, is very important, because people want to understand how Bethany Funk slept through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's a fair question to ask, I think, when they're looking at this. I mean, obviously, we saw in the Murdaugh trial, they did the visit to Moselle, to the dog kennels, and many of the jurors said that was very impactful. That really made a big difference in their decision. I would imagine it would be the same here. What exactly would a jury expect to see or experience if they did, in fact, make it to that home? Would there be anything like that? Would there be any sort of examples like that laid out of sound, being that would be one of the biggest questions?
Well, they would certainly be able to walk that house and be able to understand sound as it related to what happened inside and outside that house, because they would be able to hear other sounds going on outside, and they would be able to be outside and see what sounds they could hear inside. So, they would be free to certainly walk around and examine the crime scene. That would be the whole purpose. And I agree with you. When they got to go to Moselle and listening to the jurors that spoke about this, they said this was very impactful for their decision. Mm-hmm. And they were able to see and feel the proximity of everything that happened, and it helped them to realize, that Alex wasn't being truthful. Mm-hmm. I think that was a big issue. And by the way, did you hear, Tony, that the Moselle, the kennels, my understanding, do not exist anymore.
I was unaware of that. That could be very impactful should there be a retrial of Alec Murdaugh with the Becky Hill issues.
Yeah, that was what I was told. I haven't been to Moselle myself to verify that, but wow, if those kennels are truly gone and therefore they can't walk through, we're looking at another situation like this. And I wanted to mention too, Tony, the families, particularly Mr. Gonsalves, they have pled to please keep the structure up. I know nobody wants to look at it. I understand that.
Sure.
But the balance is justice for the kids. To me, it far outweighs an eyesore for another few years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Is there any way that a court could compel the owners of the structure are now the school. Is there any way that a court could compel them to keep the structure up by law and not just simply requesting it, but literally you can't tear this thing down right now?
Yes, they could. And it's interesting. I don't know if you saw an email, but there is an email exchange regarding this. But the school has been told, listen, both the defense and the prosecution agree that they don't care if it's torn down. And the school is the one that's actually delayed it being torn down. I think they're quite frankly worried about being sued later for tearing it down, that somehow they'll become party to a suit. And I would not doubt that Mr. Gonsalves would put that forward.
Yeah.
But they have not been told by a court, and a court could tell them. But for the court to make that decision outside of the defense and prosecution, going to them with a motion would be a little bit unusual. But we've seen things like that before, where judges will step in.
Yeah.
Shoot, we just saw it. Judge stepped in and kicked two attorneys off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's true. There is a lot of power there. And it still does baffle me why the prosecution is cool with the house being torn down. That just seems to be like a very bad misstep right there.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.